Now we're going to use this library here in a second, but first, let's talk about a functional interface. Okay, we talked about it a little bit in the previous lecture. So if you didn't watch that lecture, go back and watch it. I may go over some of the basics then, and I may not go over them now. So far we successfully imported an external library. We're going to talk about a functional interface, and then we're going to use the library. So first, let's make a functional interface. So here I have an interface called notification. And notification is going to have one method called handle. So I'm using public here. Remember, public is not necessary. Methods in an interface are public by default. In fact, if I try to change it, let's say I'm going to call it handle. Let me build this first. So I'll put double. Let's say it's going to be %unzipped. We're going to have the unzip state. So I'm going to say unzip state, which is going to be state. And we're going to have a string, which is a message. Okay, you'll see unzip state is actually here. It's a Java class. So if I open this up, it's an enum. I built my own state. So I have running, interrupted, exception, and ended. So I can only have 4 states. And this is based off of the thread lifecycle. So if I go back to the lectures, and I go back to start in threading, go back over the slides, you'll see the lifecycle. I've created, alive, and terminated. When it's alive, I have running, non-runnable, runnable, and running. But most of the time, you won't see this here. You're not going to be able to see this. Most of the time, you're going to only see this. Created, alive, which means it's running, and then terminated. So if I come back over to my states, I have running, interrupted, exception, ended. So I go back here. Remember, all methods in an interface must be public. So if I put it at private, I get an error. And you can look at the error. It says, private interfaces are not supported in JDK 8. They may be supported in JDK 9, but we're focusing on JDK 8. If I try to put it as protected, it doesn't allow it. If I try to put it as the default is public. So it'd be the same as this. So they have to be public. Otherwise, I'll get a compile error. Now, if I want to make this a functional interface, I need to put the functional interface annotation. This is going to be an exam question. You want to know what a functional interface is. A functional interface is an interface that has exactly one abstract method. And I'm pulling this right from the Java docs. So you would want to read the Java docs, and I'll show you how to do that. So conceptually, a functional, if I'm taking the time to write this down, you know you're going to see it somewhere on a quiz or on an exam. The functional interface has exactly one. Look at the keyword exactly one, and look at the keyword abstract method. Okay, and you can find that here. So if I click on functional interface, right click, do a show Java doc, it'll actually pop up here. Now I recommend you read the full paragraph. You'll see here, functional interface. Conceptually, a functional interface has exactly one abstract method. Since default methods have an implementation, they are not abstract. Same with static methods. So you'll see here, if I try to create another abstract method, let's say test, I get an error. See this? Unexpected. Notification is not a functional interface. Multiple non-overriding abstract methods found in an interface. So you may see a quiz question, or you may see a test question. I'll put a functional interface here, and I'll have 2 abstract methods. You'll want to say that's a compile error. You can only have 1 abstract method. But a lot of students get this wrong. If I do static, look at that, the error went away. And now if I do this, it's fine. So it's not that I can only have 1 method. It's that I can only have 1 abstract method. I can have a static method. I can have a default method. That's okay. If I put another static method, that's fine. But if I put another abstract method, okay, now we got a problem. Now we got a compile error. So a functional interface is an interface that has exactly 1 abstract method. Let's say I got rid of this thing. I just had the static method. Now I still have an error. Okay, no abstract method found. So it has to have exactly 1. But it doesn't mean it can't have other methods. Just remember that. So I'm just leaving this here so you know that may be on the test. Now, what's cool about this is by having a functional interface, I can use a Lambda expression, and it actually explains that in the docs. So you'll see here with this annotation type, compilers are required to generate an error message unless the type is an interface type and not an annotation type, enum or class. You want to read about it here. And basically, functional interfaces can be created with Lambda expressions. This is the reason we're creating a functional interface. And I talked about that in the last video. I can use a Lambda expression because there's actually only one method to override. Let's say I had two methods. I couldn't use a Lambda. How do I know which method I'm overriding? But since the functional interface has exactly one abstract method, I can use a Lambda, which is that little arrow, because I know exactly what method I'm going to use. It's right here. And that's what a functional interface is. Now, before we used a built-in functional interface, right now this is our custom functional interface. So when we use a Lambda expression here, we're using a Lambda expression that we built, which is cool because all semester we've been using Lambda expressions that somebody else built. Okay, so I've successfully imported a third-party library, which is a jar file. I successfully built a functional interface. We're going to use that library. We're going to use this interface in the next video. Stick with Professor Wergeles, and we'll see you in the next video.